I recently went on a trip to Turkiye, covering 8 cities in 9 fun-filled days. Come, have fun with me. This is episode 1 of my adventures in Turkiye. Our first city was Bursa.
Welcome to Bursa! Bursa is the 4th largest city of Turkey, and here you can find the Green Mosque, or the Mosque of Sultan Mehmed I.
We first stopped at the Green Tomb, the mausoleum of the 5th Ottoman Sultan Mehmed I. The construction of this tomb was finished in the year 1421. Within the walls are the tombs of not just the Sultan, but his sons and daughters as well. Just across is the Green Mosque, or Yeşil Cami, the most valuable historical monument of Bursa.
So I'm about to enter the Green Mosque, and that's why I'm trying to fix my hair, because it has to be under the cover of a scarf. And then I just removed my shoes. No shoes inside.
Upon entering, I saw at the very center of the mosque the marble basin for ablutions. And then on both sides are small rooms with beautifully decorated ceilings. The windows and portals of the mosque are decorated with marble carvings, while the rest of the interior walls are rich with tiles in colors blue, azure, turquoise, and green, interspersed with Arabic script. The Green Mosque, like many others, is a working mosque and receives visitors daily for prayer, study, reflection, and others. Our next stop was the Ulu Mosque.
I am now inside the Ulu Mosque, or the Grand Mosque, which is the biggest one here in Bursa, Turkey. The construction of this was finished back in 1399.
And grand indeed it is, not just in size, but the number of visitors inside and around the place. Within the mosque, at its center, is a unique fountain, or sadirvan, for ablutions. And over this is a glass dome that keeps the mosque naturally lit. On the walls and columns are calligraphies that dates from 1778 to 1938. Due to its size and number of visitors, shoe racks are placed all around the front. It is numbered, so guests can find their items easily. There are also coverings for women that can be borrowed and returned at the depository. After my mosque visit, I took a 5-minute walk directly to the...
So right behind me is the Koza Han. Koza means cocoon, Han means house. So it's the House of Cocoon, otherwise known as the Silk Bazaar.
The Kozahan is a 2-story building constructed in 1491. In the middle of its open courtyard is another sadirvan, surrounded by stores and tea or coffee shops, with their many tables and umbrellas covering the ground. And above that is a small octagonal stone prayer room. Historically, the Kozahan was a silk cocoon marketplace. Nowadays, they mostly sell silk garments, scarves, table silver, and souvenirs.
So it's day 2 of my Turkey adventure, and today we are going to Ephesus, where we will be able to go to the House of the Virgin Mary. I'm so excited. It's a 5-hour drive, but I don't mind. I'm excited.
It was a long drive with a good climb up Mount Koresos, where the house is located, but the scenery on the way was quite the sight. From the bus parking to the shrine itself was a pleasant walk. One should stop and read the boards filled with historic notes about the shrine in several languages placed along the path. There is also a statue of St. Mary welcoming visitors. Right next to the shrine, I saw an open area with a small stage and a few benches.
This is believed to be the last home of the Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ, before her ascension in her death into heaven. And it is also believed that it was St. John the Apostle who brought her here.
The House of Mary, or the Mariam Ana Evi, has received pilgrims from all around the world since its discovery in the 19th century. Though it has not yet been fully authenticated by the Catholic Church, it has nonetheless received visits from Pope John Paul II in 1979 and Pope Benedict XVI in 2006. Since it is not allowed to take photos or videos within the shrine, I can share that the interior of the house itself is very minimal. A modest chapel, if you will, with an altar and on it a statue of the Virgin Mary. Outside the house there are candle stations for prayer intentions. Walking further down, I saw what they call the Water of Mary, a spring that supposedly has miraculous properties freely available to anyone who wants some. And then there was the wall.
So this is the wishing wall. So people write their intentions on paper, on tissues, and leave them here. But apart from those things, I also see hair clips, keys, locks, ribbons, leaves. I even saw a face mask.
Right by the exit are stores selling all kinds of religious items, including rosaries. Our next stop was the ancient city of Ephesus.
The ruins of Ephesus is one of the largest Roman archaeological sites in the Eastern Mediterranean, and in 2015 it was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Ephesus, or Ephes, was an ancient port city. It was also a pilgrimage center in the olden times due to the Temple of Artemis, which is now considered as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world.
You know, if you love history, you're gonna love it here in Ephesus. You're just surrounded by it. Look at the columns. Don't touch it. Look at the columns. And it's very expansive, so, you know, you don't get crowded, you don't feel crowded. And then look at that, the nature. It's just wonderful, it's beautiful.
I was awed by everything I saw, and yes, touched. One can't help it, especially when going up and down the slippery stairs of the Odeon or the walk to the magnificent Library of Celsus. Oh, and look what I found.
Do you know what these are? These are toilets. So yeah, they're next to each other. So when they want to go to the toilet, when they need to go, number 1 or 2, this is where they go.
Roman latrines aside, I eventually reached the Great Theater of Ephesus. It is an impressive structure built of marble that was said to have been able to accommodate up to 24,000 spectators. The amphitheater was used for different kinds of shows, including gladiator games. And about the sound.
So they say the acoustic here is very good. Let's give it a try.
Ah! Tarzan yell in Ephesus? Who knew?
Was it good?
The next morning was spent in Bodrum, a port city in southwestern Turkiye. It has a very pretty port with a lot of boats for rent and an abundance of souvenir stores and restaurants with seafood specialties. This is also where we find the Castle of St. Peter. The Bodrum Castle, as it is also known, is a historical fortification built from 1402 onwards by the Knights of St. John. Completed in the late 15th century, it fell under the Ottoman Empire for almost 400 years. Then, in the 1960s, the castle became home to the Museum of Underwater Archaeology. The castle is a nice place to walk around with refreshing air blowing in from the Aegean Sea. Even animals like it there, as was demonstrated by this prancing peacock. I ended my castle tour with a quick trip to the museum. The museum's collection of amphoras, ancient glass, bronze, clay, and other items date back from the 14th century BC to 2500 BC.
They can actually tell when the ship sank by the things that they find inside. So from this shipwreck, which sank back in 1026 AD, they found glass artifacts, they found earthenware, pottery, and they also found weapons.
After Bodrum, it was off to Hierapolis, Pamukkale.
We are now in Pamukkale, and this behind me is known as the Cotton Castle. So this used to be filled with natural hot springs that they believed could heal respiratory problems, cardiovascular problems, rheumatism, and also skin diseases.
The hot springs were used as a spa as early as the 2nd century, most famous for the carbonate mineral left by the thermal spring water. Unfortunately, when I went, most of the travertine were empty, save for a small section that was open to visitors and therefore was crowded. People were walking about, dipping their feet in, having fun taking photos. Another must-see in Hierapolis is the theater. So off I went in a golf cart because the walk uphill would have taken me approximately 20 breathtaking minutes. Literally. So this is the theater of Hierapolis and it's so grand. There's only up to a certain spot that you can go down, but that's a long way down. And you have to be very careful because it's kind of steep. The theater was built back in 2nd century AD. It has 45 rows of seats that can accommodate approximately 15,000 people. And from here, one can have the best view of the ancient city of Hierapolis. Day 4 of my Turkiye adventure began with a trip to what is known as the Turkish Riviera, Antalya. There, we passed through the Hadrian's Gate, which is the only remaining entrance gate in the walls that surround the city of Antalya. Beyond that is Kalesi, the beautiful old quarter of Antalya. I strolled down the narrow streets that's now filled with cafes and bars, plus shops selling souvenirs, jewelry, bronzeware, and silverware. Next stop is the Theater of Aspendos. This is the amphitheater or the Theater of Aspendos. It's so well preserved that it's in almost perfect condition. It was built back in 138 to 164 AD and it could seat between 12,000 to 15,000 spectators. Size-wise, it isn't bigger than the theaters we have mentioned before, but the beauty lies in its state, despite the fact that it's still being used today for cultural events, mainly during spring and early summer seasons. The next morning, it was the perfect sunny day for our first visit to the Mevlana Museum. The museum holds the tomb of Mevlana Celaleddin Rumi, the founder of what is commonly known as the Whirling Dervishes. We first entered the main building. We put plastic covers they provided over our shoes before entering. Within it is the tomb of Rumi, which is richly decorated and covered in cloth of gold. Tombs of Rumi's family and descendants are also within the building. A big area is lined with glass cases holding Mevlevi historical artifacts that are over 7 centuries old. So perfectly preserved are these antique prayer carpets, illuminated Qurans, and prayer beads. It is even said that the central glass case holds relics of the Prophet Muhammad. Beyond this, I also visited the dervish cells that holds exhibits illustrating the Mevlevi's daily life. Our next stop was the Sultan Han Caravanserai. A caravanserai historically means an inn surrounding a court where caravans rest at night, providing shelters to travelers and served as a marketplace for trading goods. And the Sultan Han is the largest and best preserved Seljuk caravanserai in central Anatolia and in Turkey. With such intricate carvings on marbles, this caravanserai was built in 1229 and was a major stopover along the Silk Road. Where the covered courtyard used to house travelers and their animals, it currently displays colorful carpets. Another bus ride away is the oldest underground city in Turkey, the Kaymakli. Though there are around 36 excavated underground cities in Cappadocia, only 2 are open to the public, and one of them is the Kaymakli. It is an underground maze of passageways and settlements that once housed over 3,000 people from as far back as the 7th century BCE. Living spaces were carved into the region's petrified volcanic ash called tufa as a means of protection against foreign invaders. The tunnels are small, narrow, and can be quite steep, so those with claustrophobia or have mobility issues should consult first before going in. So my height is 5'5", and my head is already hitting the ceiling. And when you're walking through the tunnels, like when I walk through the tunnels, I'm actually bent over in half. So it's really very
fall.
The city is estimated to go as far as 66 feet underground, with several floors housing both humans and their animals. It is possible to get lost within the many passageways in Kaymakli if you don't pay attention. However, there are arrows all around to point you in the right direction.
There are so many holes that it's really a maze. If they had no arrows, I would already have been lost and not come out in like 100 days. So I explore this Kaymakli. It should not be missed. Wow.
On the next episode, we fly high in the sky in captivating Cappadocia and ride our way through both Europe and Asia at the same time on the Bosphorus Strait. See ya!